Hello, beautiful souls. I should start this off with that song, but I'm not really in the mood for chirpy noises. I'm not. Wah. I just wanted to make you a real and vulnerable kind of inside post at exactly how I'm feeling and what I'm thinking right now in this new era of coronavirus life. So it is March 23rd in my part of the world, and situations change daily. So if you listen to this in 1 day's time or 2 days' time, things might be completely different. But I just wanted to check in with you. I just wanted to share with you what I'm thinking, what I'm going through. I just listened to over the weekend a Chat 10 Look 3 Facebook Live, and it was honestly so reassuring for me to have some of my favorite podcast people talking about what they're thinking in this whole new corona world of ours. And so I wanted to do the same. And if you're really needing to not think about coronavirus right now, which is completely understandable, holy shit, like, can we have any other conversations apart from coronavirus? Um, yes, this is not going to be the podcast for you if you need to just check out with something else entirely. So, where we are, March 23rd. Um, Here in Australia, we have still not locked down yet. And this is like a source of complete like disbelief for the rest of the world, I think, and complete disbelief for a lot of us here in Australia as well. And it's felt really frustrating and upsetting, and I felt a lot of anger and lack of trust in our government. I think I have less trust in this government than I ever have. Um, in my life. So it's a really new experience for me. And even though the government is in power, I've never voted for them. I doubt I ever will. Um, I would still take any other of their prime ministers that they've had. I would take fucking Turnbull. I would take John Howard. I would take Peter Costello in an instant if we didn't have this one, because I just feel like we're being yelled at like this is our fault, and he's not making any clear plans and doesn't seem to have a fucking clue what's going on. It's it's intense. It really is. And I find myself having to not watch his um, telecast at the moment because I feel so angry and feel so upset. For us personally, we pulled our kids out of school a week ago based on our GP's advice. I went to go see him because one of my daughters needed to see him anyway. And I said, look, can I just get your advice on this as well? And he said, absolutely, pull them out now. This is going to get much, much worse, and they need to be at home. And this is the opinion of the global medical community. Do not follow the Australian government's advice. And I want to say here, like, my GP is not like one of those hippie naturopath crossover general practitioners. No, he's just like a normal suburban GP in a shopping center. And he's been practicing it for a really, really long time. And he's said to me that he's told all of his clients. So we pulled our kids out a week ago. And honestly, we've really been frustrated and worried and anxious about whether we'd done it too early or whether we'd overreacted. But we trusted our GP's advice, and we trusted the experience of other countries worldwide, and what they were having to do. Yeah, it is a disruption. And yes, this is unprecedented in our lifetimes, um, but it's still important. It's critically important to do. So it's in some ways it's been like a little bit of relief in that some of Australia's states, and I'll say this for because a lot of you may be overseas. Some of Australia's states have now decided to basically go against our Prime Minister's opinion and lock down their states anyway and close down the schools. And I felt so fucking relieved when they did it. And I'm just hope it's not in our state yet, but I'm hopeful that it becomes kind of groundswell, and so the other states will follow now. Um, and I've just been so fucking grateful to have three levels of government. Like, this is where I'm like, this is why we have three levels of government. This is so important. So our prime minister might be bodging this the fuck up, but at least we have like recourse through our state governments to try and get something through there as well. Anyway, so I've just been feeling really upset and really anxious a lot, and then trying not to be, because in a lot of ways we're already doing what we should be doing. We're pretty much in lockdown now. We've only left the house in order to get some essential bits and pieces like medications, and we did not have any stores of food. Usually me and my husband go grocery shopping like once a day or once every 2 days. And we basically keep really nothing in the fridge or the cupboard. So in some ways I felt like I've been behind the eight ball on self-sufficiency and sustainability. And I know there's all of this like bitchiness about panic buying as though that's the problem and that's the cause. But, and I fucking hate that our Prime Minister has told us all off for it. I'm like, dude, look around the world. Everyone has done this, and kind of for good reason, because we're all like really fucking concerned. And we have never had to do lockdown before, and the Victorian Premier has told us that we need at least 2 weeks supplies of food. A lot of people don't have that. We didn't have that. So unfortunately, yeah, we're going to have to like actually create stores of food. And I see it personally as a government failure for them not seeing this coming, because we're actually one of the last countries to get this. We should have fucking seen this miles off, and they should have shut it down way earlier and prepped us way, way better than they have. Anyway, that's just my fucking opinion. It's okay if you think differently. It's okay if you want to give Slow-Mo a head job. Like, if that's your prerogative, groovy, go for it. I just wanted to share, like, my brain's like, meh, when it comes to like politics at the moment. I did some art journaling over the weekend just to try and calm the farm. I've been doing a lot of self-care practices. My weighted blanket has come in hugely helpful. Using doTERRA essential oils has been hugely helpful, both in terms of the immune, like trying to keep my immune system up, and in terms of that anxious hum and the tightness in the chest and not being able to sleep and things like that. But I did some art journaling as well, and that's always such a hugely handy way to try and process feelings. And one of the pages I did ended up coming out, and there was like pictures of elders in there, and the message that art journal page wanted to share with me was to heed the wisdom and the lessons of the Italian elders who have been hardest hit. And I felt like they've been trying to tell us, like, please take this seriously. Please understand that this is life-changing and is going to have huge ramifications. And so I want to honor them and just do the right thing here by myself and by my family and by my community, by doing this crazy thing of pulling my kids out of school before the government said we're allowed to. And just so you know, if you're not here in Australia, the Prime Minister, right up until yesterday, has been adamant that schools will not close and that every child should be going to school. Spoiler alert, his own children haven't been going to school. But of course, what's good for the goose is never good for the gander. So I really felt upset about the fact that we've been told, no, you have to send your kids to school when it's against the medical community's opinion. He's now like slightly relented and said, if you don't want your kids to go to school, that's okay. Um, like we're not trying to be truant here. We're trying to just do the right thing. And it's the first time I've actually done something in my life that it was against government policy at the time. I'm such a fucking do-gooder. And I like to follow rules, and that's probably a little bit of my Asperger's personality. Uh, but it's felt really disconcerting to be not doing what the government says, basically, but having to follow our GP's advice. And then finally, like, there's more and more of the politics that's kind of like popping up to support. I'm also like thinking about like our homeschool community that we were a part of, and just thinking, mate, it's so much easier for them to just go, like, we don't have to like fight this particular fight. Um, I am like having my kids at home now. I am really grateful for it. And I think, oh my gosh, it's like a second honeymoon of homeschooling in a way. And it's not going to be like super easy because nothing ever is, but it can be like a gift of another homeschooling round. And I wasn't sure that that would happen again, but I want to try and enjoy it as much as possible and try and do it without huge amounts of pressure. If you're interested, I just did a podcast episode on suddenly homeschooling. If you've never homeschooled before, if you'd just like to hear how we kind of tend to do homeschooling. I know there's lots of different schools doing different things. Some have moved to online learning, and so kids are just doing class over Zoom and stuff like that now anyway. And some people have been sent home with nothing or like some worksheets. I was really comforted. There's an Australian principal of a school said, I'd mostly just want to tell parents just to enjoy this time being at home with their kids, just garden and exercise and laugh together, play some board games. Don't worry too much about the homework. That stuff can wait, but like let this be a family connection time. And I thought that was really beautiful. So I feel like I'm constantly kind of having to sigh and exhale at the moment just to run it all through and make sure that I try and keep up my energy work as well. Like when I'm laying down in bed at night, just doing a scan of my body, checking in how things are feeling, checking in if there's anything in my body that doesn't belong to me. I'm finding at the moment during this time there's a lot of kind of static electricity and this kind of frantic energy that doesn't necessarily belong to me. And so with all of those things, as Hira Boga, my mentor, has taught me, is to, that's, if it doesn't belong to you, it doesn't belong in your body. So you remove it out of your body and actually come back into your own soul, bring your soul back into your own body. And from there, you can make good and grounded decisions. I've been thinking as I go that it can feel really overwhelming to keep up to date. And as my husband said to me, we actually don't really need to listen to the news anymore because we're doing all the right things now anyway. And we're kind of living like a shutdown life anyway, so it doesn't matter. And even if we just check the news like once a day now, that's enough for us instead of like staying on Twitter. Twitter, I just feel like I get so angry and so passionate and feel like I can change the world with a few fucking tweets, but I can't, and that's okay. It's interesting, even though I kind of like think I'm also a hippie in some ways, I'm so behind what my real hippie friends are doing in terms of self-sufficiency and self-sustainability. And then I feel like since this whole coronavirus is like come into our consciousness, everyone's kind of gone into prepper mode. So I feel like I'm kind of 2 weeks behind even the general population in terms of prepping. So I didn't have 2 weeks of stores up until last week. Um, I last week I kind of woke up in a panic thinking, fuck, I need bread. I need, I need to get a bread maker. I need to get bread supplies. And I checked and I could not get a bread maker for love nor money. I couldn't get baker's flour. When I went to the grocery store, I got the second to last yeast. There was 2 packets of yeast and 2 packets of bread improver there. So I took one of each to try and hope that somebody else, so that somebody else could get some if they needed it. Um, and I was just thinking to myself, fuck, everybody's already had these thoughts and I haven't. My dad just told me that deep freezers are sold out around Australia now. And I'm like, fuck, like, how am I so far behind this? And then over the weekend, I thought to myself, you know what? Like, I probably should, like, have more vegetable and fruit producing plants in my garden. We have enough land for that, but we haven't gotten super into it since we moved here. And we have a nursery at the end of our road. I called him and asked, and he said, mate, like, good luck. Like, everyone's had a run on this already. And Bunnings, which is our big kind of hardware store and gardening superstore in Australia, they have nothing left. They have no seedlings. They barely have seeds. And I just thought to myself, fuck, once again, like, how am I behind this so far? Um, and so if you've got like, if you've got like hot tips on what else I should be doing in self-sufficiency, please let me know. And the thing I keep on thinking is like, this is the stuff I should have been doing anyway. And this is the stuff that I've been wanting to do, and we've had it set up in previous properties that we've been at, but we haven't done much on the one that we currently are, that since we moved to it last year. And so I just think, wow, this is such a huge opportunity for us to do what we should have been doing all along, and to be more self sufficient. And maybe this will in some way change the tide. Maybe people will fall in love with gardening and self sufficiency again. The bloke down the road told me that he and his wife decided they needed to get chickens. And he said, good luck trying to get chickens now, because people have done the same thing and there's now a 3-month wait on chickens. Um, we decided to order an organic fruit and veg box delivery each week. We felt like, oh, well, that's a good way for us to like replenish our stocks without having to leave the house, and buying it from local farmers. And again, we should have been doing this all along. And it's just now this is an opportunity for us to do the thing that we should have been doing. It's interesting because we were lucky to get a fruit box here, but I've tried getting one for my parents-in-law and for my dad, and for love nor money can't get them. And they're saying we have gotten so much demand in the past few weeks that we can't take on any more customers. And I think, holy shit, this is amazing. Maybe we'll all go back to doing life a bit better now because of this. This is a huge opportunity. And I hope that we learn how to like not waste this as well. And it's interesting, over the weekend, I had some eggs that were just about to go out of date, and I had some bread that was 2 days old and did not taste so great to eat anymore. And usually on the weekends, my husband will just pop up to the local bakery and get us some bakery food, and we're like, that's not happening. So instead, I made French toast for the first time using the old bread and using the eggs. And I thought, oh, holy fuck, this is what I should have been doing all along. I did manage to get some new fruit trees to plant, and I took an inventory of what we already have. So when I wandered around our yard, we've got 8 pawpaw trees and a lemon tree. And I found up the back, surprise, surprise, I hadn't found this, behind another tree, there was a small mulberry bush growing. So I was really excited about that. I thought, woohoo, mulberries. And I took some cuttings and I'm trying to make them sprout now in my um, on my windowsill. We looked up a list as well of the kinds of plants that you can, like the fruit and vegetables that you can grow using stuff that you've bought from the shops, like using scraps. And there's a huge list of them. So the organic farm there I've ordered from, I've made sure to order some of those things so that I can propagate from there. Propagate. Look at me talking gardening talk. Fuck! I'm so far behind the eight ball, but I'll get there. I will get there. We really should have been doing this all along, right? Is that what you guys are thinking? This is such a huge opportunity, and I hope it means that we consume a lot less. I think, well, at least it stops people from buying a whole bunch of clothes because nobody's leaving the fucking house, so nobody needs to. I don't buy any clothes really anyway, very much so. It's not really any skin off my nose. I've been thinking a lot about our ancestors during this time and their wisdom in terms of propagation of plants and food and growing their own and being more self sufficient, and also the wisdom of what they've been through as well. A lot of our parents and our grandparents have been through wars and Great Depressions and recessions and times when things were really fucking tough. And it taught them so much and it made them more stoic. When I think about my 97-year-old grandmother Marion, who only died a few years ago, she'd been through so much in terms of the world wars and the not really world wars, but wars enough, with her husband going to war, her sons going to war, with losing two husbands, two sons, and a grandson. She would tell me stories of the really difficult times and the parts where they had no food or no place to live. And she'd say, oh, they were hard times, but they were really fun too. And she kind of had this levity of spirit about everything, and nothing, really sat heavily on her because she'd already been through heavy times. She still just kept dancing through life. And so I think about my grandmother Marion, and I think about my other ancestors and what they've been through. And I think about our ancestors throughout the life of, humanity and how much they've gone through in terms of famines and wars and conflicts and society change, all the difficulties that they've gone through, not just our grandparents, but, way, way back through our line. And all of them survived to be able to create you. We've gone through this successful lineage of people who've managed to propagate just like a mulberry tree, even when things have been deeply challenging and deeply hard. And so I think even though I haven't been through this before, we absolutely can do it. And of course, there's that ridiculous meme about our grandparents were called to war. We are being called to sit on our couches. We can do this. And we really can. Yes, it's going to be fucking hard. Yes, there's so much uncertainty. Yes, there will be a global recession. Yes, a lot of people are going to have to change how they live and they work. And we can do hard things, as Glennon Doyle would say. I've been thinking as well about how your DNA can light up in a crisis. So that whole bread maker thing, the funny part about me feeling like I need a bread maker is we actually don't eat a huge amount of bread. But I am English. I have English and Danish heritage. And it's like this internal thing that says, I need to be able to have tea and toast, and everything else I'm going to be fine with. And I've asked other friends about this, and they've kind of noticed something similar in terms of like their genetics shows up in a certain way during a crisis. I have one Russian and Jewish Holocaust friend that's her heritage, and she said in some ways it's like her whole heritage is lighting up right now and saying, see, I told you this would happen. I told you things would go to shit. Like, I told you rationing would happen. I told you life isn't always easy. And so I'm absolutely fucking fascinated by what we're holding in ourselves and how our genetic heritage is showing up at these times. The last thing is that tomorrow my eldest daughter turns 10 years old. 2 years ago on her birthday, she had gastro and she was the most ill she has ever been. She spent most of the day vomiting and most of the next week. The year after that, on her birthday, our elderly dog was recovering from emergency tumor surgery and needed 24/7 care at home. And this year, before leading up to her birthday, my darling Astara said, gosh, I really hope I have a wonderful birthday this year. The last 2 years' birthdays haven't been so great. And she was really gracious about it, and we had lovely times at home anyway. But she was really hoping that this would be the year. This would be the year that her birthday was great. And coronavirus says no. I just think there's just something so absolutely hilarious. This poor kid has just now got this 3-year run of just absolutely shit-tastic birthdays. And we'll be fine. She's not really bothered. She thinks it's kind of funny as well. We will make it up to her. But considering her younger sister had her birthday like 2 weeks ago, and we had a great time. We went to the zoo. We had a wonderful experience. And she was like, wow, I hope we can do something cool like this for my birthday. And then Corona happened. Oh, mate, it just makes me laugh. Bless. Now, I want to share with you one last story about my dad. So for those of you who don't know, my dad, I also call him the wild bushman dad. He lives on a cattle farm and in North Queensland, and is, like, if you're like a farmer from a regional area, then you're kind of a little bit of like, I don't know, an American hillbilly in a way. Like that's kind of that's the heritage I come from, and I come from it proudly. Anyway, I called my dad and I said, how are you going, Dad? Like, have you got enough food stores? And he said to me, oh, yeah, nah, she'll be right. Got a big fat cow at the back. If shit gets tough, I'll just go roll her. I'll just go roll her. I'll just go roll the big fat cow at the back. And I have not been able to stop laughing every single time I think about that. And when we went out the other day to go get some medication, some ducks on our road walked across the road, and I turned to my husband and I said, well, I know what I'm going to roll if shit goes down. Some nice fat ducks. And every time I see an animal, I point it out to Chris as a protein source that I could potentially roll. Oh, this is the stuff that makes me laugh. And please, if you're a vegan, please don't come after me. I am tired and I am vulnerable, and I want to commend you on the long pantry life of your protein sources. Like, good for you. Like, you are winning at life right now. So I'm just going to high five you deeply and tenderly and tell you I love you big heaps. Please don't send me cranky emails about these terrible rolling jokes. So, that's all I've got to say about that. My periods came today. I can barely walk from the pain. But, as Glennon Doyle says, we can do hard things. I can be quarantined and I can have my periods, and we will continue on anyway. I'm sending you so much love to where you are right now. I want you to know whatever happens, whatever we're going through right now, whatever's going to come at us, it's going to make us more resilient, more stronger, and put us on the right path, I believe. I really do. Big love.